As Darth Vader, he was constantly trained to forget his Jedi past, to forget his childhood, his mother, his wife, and ultimately every single aspect of his previous life. This was done on purpose by Sidious in order to forget the light side of the Force. Sidious knew that that would always hamper on Darth Vader. It is in fact the one thing that would probably create trust issues between Palpatine and Vader. That's why Vader is sent to slaughter every single Jedi inside the Jedi Temple, including younglings. While other Sith had no trouble proving themselves, Anakin, now Darth Vader, had to prove himself beyond his capabilities in the eyes of now Emperor Palpatine, Darth Sidious, who knew that he needed to purge the light from Anakin once and for all. And in order to do that, he needed to do something drastic that he had never done before and go beyond just Jedi to younglings as well. Unfortunately though, the comics shows us that Vader's past never really left him, and that's what we see in one of the last issues of the Darth Vader comics in 2018. He entered into his own visions. This other world or dimension had never been explored before, so what we got was extremely trippy to say the least, but ultimately Vader realized the truth. The truth about Sidious, the truth about Padme, but ultimately the truth about himself as well. In what was an Inception type of thing, Vader saw a vision of little Anakin dreaming about his life back on Tatooine. Him just being disappointed and walking back home. Now, do you guys notice something? Immediately in the first page, the sand is overwhelming little Anakin. The painters made sure to draw as much dust and sand behind Anakin as possible, who already was frustrated enough and seems to have had a bad day, but suddenly his foot gets stuck in the sand as he trips and almost falls. But that's not all. He lets out his frustration by saying "stupid sand." This quickly became very popular all over the comic. We absolutely loved this one, you guys, and I have to admit, me included. Stupid sand seemed like something that Anakin would really say, but the truth of the matter is that no matter how hard Anakin tried, he would never be able to adapt to not only this stupid sand, but live on this stupid planet also. In fact, what happens next is really interesting and shows the consequences of what stupid sand and Tatooine left on Anakin. He noticed a sinister figure in his shadows, and suddenly his future was realized. Vader came out of the shadow and chased after him. This symbolized that he will never be able to escape his destiny. He wakes up, of course, but in the end, what was the meaning of this entire dream sequence? The truth of why Anakin really suffered wasn't overly complicated, but in some way, his future was going to be filled with sand. You see, sand followed him everywhere he went. In this case, I'm using sand as a metaphor, of course, because it is always apparent that Anakin never really let go of what happened on Tatooine, both as a slave and once he returned to find his mother and as she died in his hands. This stupid sand would haunt Skywalker for the rest of his days. You can even make the case that it haunted him even during his Vader years. His ego was inflated to the biggest point at that time. He killed his subordinates left and right. This ego problem again came from his suffering on Tatooine, him feeling powerless as a slave. He more than made up for it once he became the second in command to a grand empire. Whatever the case though, it always comes back to his mother. Tatooine plays a big role in his upbringing, as Anakin really suffered during his childhood, but he also had his good moments, such as his time with his mother and the time he spent with his friends finding the parts for C-3PO. Building C-3PO was one of the highlights of early Anakin's life. Getting reunited with C-3PO later in his years, spending time with Padme, and all of this comes together for Vader during this time. Although this comic falls in Legends lore, in canon we see the similar thing happening as well. We've always talked about the hindering of Vader's past. He wants to forget everything as much as possible, but for some reason the past always creeps in. It's a race between the future and the past for Vader, and they always seem to collide in some weird manner. And this one was definitely a shock, to say the least. Darth Vader could not escape C-3PO's rush to remind him of his time with his mother. Those were better times, at least if you consider what is happening with him during these turbulent times. He knows that Luke is coming to Bespin and he is his son. He is thinking of how to convince his newly found son in Luke Skywalker and bring him to his side, bring him to the dark side, and if Luke joins him as a father and son duo team, they could rule the galaxy together and defeat Palpatine once and for all. Something that Vader knows he can't do by himself, but with Luke by his side, not only can they defeat him, but set the galaxy straight as he wanted to do decades ago when he became Sidious's apprentice. That dream unfortunately fell short, and now there was a chance to set things straight. And C-3PO definitely reminded him of his true original goals. He had a wife waiting for him home, and by the end, she was pregnant. Everything was going so magnificently if it was not for the secret marriage that he had with Padme, but the Clone Wars for him was the peak of his life because he had all the power he desired. He felt enough power that quenched his thirst. This is why he remembers that era so fondly. Not only did he have an army, but the head of that army, Captain Rex, was his close and personal friend. Next, he had Ahsoka by his side, his apprentice, and his best friend, his brother Obi-Wan, was together with him till the end. That era could not replace anything he had experienced so far in the loneliness of the Empire. I feel deep inside, as much as he wanted to pretend that the Empire and the Sith were better, simply put, it was not. It was a complete disappointment both for Palpatine and Vader. At least that's my thinking of it. Palpatine was disappointed in Vader, and Vader was disappointed because the promises to him were not met. But of course, what do you guys think as well? Talk to me down below in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed, leave a thumbs up down below, subscribe for dailies. Now you can have an awesome day, Star Wars fans. I'll see you in the next video, and may the Force be with you. Until then.